the new format is going to be 30 minutes of silence.
and then 30 seconds of talking.
And I think we just used half that. So.
Okay.
So it's nice to stop and see that at any time I have the option of sensing myself. I remember Peter Brook talking about that and saying that no matter what he was doing, in the middle of a set, for example, if there was a delay, he could just stop for a minute. He said, I have a tiny little sitting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's always a good thing.
I remember being online for a bank, in a bank, and a thought crossed my mind that this was going to be a waste of my time. And another someone raised their hand and said, but you could always remember yourself.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, what an absolutely non-waste of time this would be. What an opportunity.
Well, every little crevice of time can be filled with that interest, I find. I mean, I listen to people on a regular basis talking about how they can't seem to find themselves in a moment. You know, they come back and they see that they were out there. But every little crevice of time can be interesting if you're engaged with your sensation. The connection provides a kind of energy that I'm not sure what I'd call it. There's a current that flows through the entire experience of being that puts you more there. And life is perpetually interesting because of that. I mean, it even almost doesn't matter what's happening outside. There's still this interest because of the contact with that part.
Life is in the details.
It is.
And the details can't be experienced without a certain kind of energy.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you know, it's funny, we call the energy a fine energy, I think, because it calls our attention to the fine details in our being, body, and in the events that take place. So I'm never bored. I just don't get bored. I always have something to do.
Yeah. And to follow.
Yeah.
Yeah. What a gift the work is in that regard.
Well, I often find myself saying, this is mysterious. I don't know why this is this way. I don't know what this energy is really, except that it's alive in me and I'm alive. And that it's an invitation to be interested. It just raises a lot of questions about why is there an energy, a current that flows through the cosmos of this kind? Because I don't sense it as being the property of myself in any sense. It definitely is not. It's an attunement with what's going on this planet from a cosmological point of view, not, the politics or the destruction of the environment or what have you, but just the nature of the planet's being. All of a sudden I'm in relationship to it.
Well, you made a leap there to the Earth's being that I'm hesitant to make. This energy is certainly not mine.
You don't think it's got a planetary nature to it? It's not in the sense you have of it?
In the process of discovering this has been an ongoing question, but it feels like it's deepening of what this energy is. And at the point of my experience of it, it's not clear to me where it comes from. But it does invite me to allow it to come deeper in, and I feel illuminated, or the possibility of illuminating this, my being, in a way that allows me to have that live in me more, in which, and the impulse then is to follow it back to its source.
Well, a good impulse, no doubt. I mean, I agree.
So whether it passes through it's something that's passing through the earth into me, or through me into the earth, but it certainly relates me to the present moment, and to and moments brings me in contact with life and others.
Well, we're always on a terribly slippery slope when we try to explain anything, and yet so many people came to me during and after the Claymont work period we hosted together, saying, when these little Zoom meetings we did for people that might want to join groups and so on, I was like, well, what is your question? Why do you want to be in a group? And they said, I want to find meaning. I'm searching for meaning. And so, in a certain sense, they're all saying, yeah, I know we're not supposed to explain anything, but I have an explanation. And I don't know that any of us would be in this work if we hadn't started out somewhere on that line,
But saying search for meaning can doesn't have to be verbal.
True.
and
nonetheless.
Yeah, well, there's a demanding mind. I want to know why I'm standing in this line and trying to see myself.
Yeah, well, that's a pretty natural response. But, at the risk of explaining things, I can only speak from my own experience of this question of magnetism and the earth. It's pretty specific. I've had many years to examine it in detail. And I always trace everything back to the moment that I had this contact where Mary touched me in Rome. And I didn't see the Virgin Mary like all the, the girls at the caves and the springs or whatever. And there's been plenty of those, but she touched me. And there was an electromagnetic current present when that happened. That's exactly what it was. But it was the whole planet's energy. It was as big as the sky, and that was completely unexpected. It was well outside any experience I'd ever had. And as it's developed over the years, I have come to understand that the forces that are working in us regarding sensation, and again, it's my interpretation, are gravity, which belongs to the planet and is all below the hips, actually. It's not, the solar plexus is kind of like the governor here, but everything is below the hips that binds me to this earth with gravity. And I don't know why that's happening. But I know that it's a force that grounds me. And then there's this magnetism that draws my being together and can be more concentrated non-verbally if I go into a deeper experience of it. And I've come to understand that on its own terms as having something to do with the planet. And an alignment to what it is in this cosmos. So you could say, if you wanted to invoke Ouspensky, that's kind of a ray of creation thing or whatever, but I don't even use that term. I know what the model looks like, but for me, it's a being experience of being present in a cosmos. And every time I sense it that way, it says to me, Lee, what is your duty here? You're not alone here. You're part of this huge entity, whatever you want to call it, this energy.
This is who's saying this?
I'm saying it to myself.
Okay.
It's my question. It's like, what is my duty here? If I sense that I'm within these fields, Madame called it a play of forces. I'm sure she was talking about the same thing. I feel very confident of that. I'm within this play of forces, and it always raises the question in me, because I don't know anything really in light of the scale of this, what is my responsibility? It always raises that question. So I go through life looking at all the reactions I have and thinking about what a jerk my son is being today. And I say, never mind that. What's my responsibility to this larger force? And, in my case, it always deflects towards how can I be more compassionate towards that or not say the angry thing or what have you. That's me. Other people might have a different approach, but it keeps raising this question of responsibility, and that causes me to outwardly consider, as Gurdjieff would call it, in a completely different way than I do when that's absent. So I guess that it's true. Do I really know it's from the planet? I can't pick it up like an iPhone and say, look, it's an iPhone.
Right.
I can't.
No, you can't.
But
Yeah,
my
right.
sensation says I'm with the planet. It just kind of says that. Don't you ever feel that it's just kind of saying we're here together? There's a whole.
Every time I hear words in that state, I'm suspicious. But
it doesn't say it in words.
Oh, that's
it speaks silently, and it says that it's.
What I was going to say is that in that state, I've been given meaning.
Mm-hmm.
It is meaningful. There's just a quality of meaningfulness in that state, and there is a suggestion that there is not a limit to its vastness or its strength or ability to be present. What interferes is me, often doing a happy dance because I'm in such a great place, or
I don't do happy dances much of the time. I don't. It doesn't make me happy. Honestly, I'm happy when I buy a new guitar. That's completely different. That's nothing to do with
different happiness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why I think the word joy was originally coined, because to me, joy is not, yay, we won the ball game. Forget about that. It's an organic experience of light that fills being, and it's actually quiet in its own way. It's a companion. It's as though there were a little sprinkling of love in everything that takes place. And love is feeling. It's not words.
No.
So this sprinkling of love is taking place throughout life, and the energy has something to do with that, doesn't it? I think. I don't think. That's how I experience it.
Yes, I'm playing with sprinkling versus this almost misty, much finer than a sprinkle. But anyway,
that's good too.
Yeah, and
it's not quite a fog.
It can't be fog because it's very clear.
Yeah.
There's, but it adds a dimension to everything that I experience in a way that I hadn't felt before this moment, actually. But I've been there's been an unrecognized question about maybe it's playing on what role am I expected in this, or what to do. And I've never had a question about what to do, because it's so just moving with this energy. Life comes to you, and you see.
You don't have to do anything special. Just live.
Yeah.
Just live. Well, that's exactly where I'm at in this question is that there's nothing to be done about that. Um, but the question of the responsibility I had outwardly is what arises. That's what I was getting at later, because it changes my attitude towards people and events. It changes my attitude towards everything. It's quite odd, really, because I'm such a jerk. And it's like the antidote somehow. It actually does something about the jerk. It steps in and says, well, be nice to him instead of yelling at him. It doesn't always work. It's not infallible, but
sometimes we choose the yelling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was on the phone with someone yesterday who's gravely ill, and he and his wife were yelling at each other while he was on the phone about whether he was going to take his medicine and stuff. It was very funny. And I thought to myself, it doesn't matter how bad things get. We always revert to type.
Yeah. No matter how little time you have left,
there's always time to kvetch, But even that can be done with a certain element of this joy in it.
It can be done like a dance, like you're just dancing with this moment, the person.
Yeah.
And it sometimes there are moments that are repeated, or patterns that are repeated, because it's what the relationship was allowed to do in order to feel together with this person.
Yeah. Well, there are known ways with our spouses, for example, of making the connection work. By making the right snarky comment at the right moment, or laughing at something very dark that you're sharing, or that's true. But those the habits that get us through are valuable. But the energy that's present in them seems to be independent of habit. It has an immediacy to it that refuses to submit to repetition in the same way that my ordinary parts do. And I don't know why it's like that. It feels, when I start describing it or I get poetic about it, it feels like the force of creation manifest in this moment. It's always working, and it's always got the option of making anything it wants. It's weird. But it comes down to the being a creative type. I would say that it has come down in a lot of my activities to being just absolutely open to the creative moment and what it produces, whether it's music or writing or whatever. And I'm constantly engaged in exploring that because to me, that's interesting. Maybe it's too limiting. I don't know. But when we come into relationship with a finer energy, I don't think that it allows us to transcend who we are. I think it concentrates it, but I don't think it changes us to the point where suddenly, I was a carpenter and now I'd rather play golf. I just don't think it changes us in that sense. I mean, that's a dumb example, but I think that whatever we are, it helps us be that more honorably or honestly than anything else.
Well, I think that's something I have to ponder and discover, because I think things drop away and have less force in terms of my responses to life in these moments. And in the strongest ones, there is a joy. One can see the off-ramp back to my ordinary self, and it could be in a reaction, or it could be in a desire. And in that moment, there's at times a possibility to really see and have this presence and recognize the attention being lured or enticed, and something is there to say no. I stay. Just stay. And it's not. I don't hear it audibly, but I feel it vibrationally.
Mm. Well, it's peculiar that we've brought the conversation to this point. In context, I have been reading Meister Eckhart's Sermon 9 on inner Christianity, and I actually, because it's got so much material in it, I had to break it into 10 different parts and read little bits of it at a time to avoid overwhelming both myself and the listeners. And the whole sermon is about this withdrawal from life or contemplation, which is represented by Mary in the sermon, and the action in life, which is represented by Martha. And so it's lectio divinia, it's one line from the Bible where Martha said to Mary, "Get up, just don't sit there."
Right.
And he has extraordinary views on this, but in the conclusion, he says that in the end, our religious devotion, our spiritual disciplines enrich us, but they cannot actually take us away from the fact that we're human. That will, he said, there's no saint that will ever be that did not at times feel pain or grief or what have you. And he's very plain about saying that it's absolutely necessary to move past the contemplative state into life and bring virtue to it. That's kind of the message of the sermon. He's not having the kind of dispute that the author of The Cloud of Unknowing does, where they say, well, this way of contemplation is better than all the other ways, so screw that. Kind of, it's a little snotty in that sense, even though it's a lovely book, and a very deep book, but it does kind of get on its throne and say this act of perfect contemplation is the pinnacle of inner work. And in the Middle Ages and, up through the present moment, there's always been a tension in religious disciplines between the people that are all meditation and bliss and joy and silence and stuff, and the people that are getting out there to do things in the world. And they tell each other, well, that's not what this is, but it is both things. They cannot be separated without a loss on one side or the other. And so I think that the withdrawal from life is appealing, but the engagement with it is astonishing. Don't you find?
You're using life in two different ways. Yes or no? Because the engagement of life is internal, and the engagement in life is bringing virtue.
I don't think it reminds me of something Richard Lloyd said to me many years ago. He said, and it was classic Richard. I was talking about the inner and the outer, and he said, there is no inner and outer. There's one thing. And I thought it was fascinating. He had clearly had an experience related to that. So if there's one thing in it, it's the energy, and I manifest in it, through it, with it. I don't know if I understand. I think it's very dangerous to say I understand anything, but I think I understand that there is, in the general sense of things, this inner life and this outer life, and yet the outer life is more complete if the inner life is within it as it takes place.
Yeah. Now, according to the third series, there's an inner.
An inner.
So, because I think Gurdjieff must have realized, these people think that their thoughts are inner life.
Yeah.
And so, and I think people do feel that way, and because it doesn't have to them materiality, it's not material. And all things are one, but on what level are we talking of? Because it's our bodies, and you can go down to a cellular level. I don't know. I really touched that level, but and in that scale, there's a lot of space in us. There's a lot of emptiness. So we cover the the whole spectrum of life
Well,
is in us in that way. And so, yes, everything is one thing, but there are levels and orders. How does that fit in? We have air and liquid and solid. We have spectrums of all kinds of energies.
Yeah, well, it's true.
And it's all one sound, but at our level, our world, it's not.
Well, it doesn't look like it is anyway. I mean, a quantum physicist would tell you right away that if you were at the level of quanta, everything would be soup. You wouldn't see a distinction between things. That's pretty esoteric stuff. More esoteric than what we talk about, I think. But I think that the energy is a unifying force because it penetrates everything. I think it's universal in the way I sense it. I don't think you could have said what you said about all the empty space in us, by the way, if you hadn't touched the level of cells and even finer things. I don't think you could have said that at all. So so now I'm suspicious. But
Good.
But the energy is a unifying force that brings me into the potential for a harmonious relationship with everything. So that I wrote down somewhere, I said the other day, everything is equal. It's very interesting because when you get to the right place and you're still and this energy is present, everything becomes equal because it's all valuable. It's not like nothing is valuable. Everything is. And it all has an equal value, strangely. So I got a taste of what Eckhart said when he was using the word Gleichgültigkeit, which means everything equally valid. Gültigkeit is validity. And it's a beautiful idea in a sense because I think that it's actually the same word that Gurdjieff used when he said objectivity.
Valid and objectivity.
Well, if everything is equally valid, I think that is an objective vision of experience.
Mm-hmm.
You say the two ideas are connected in an intimate way. They're not separate things. So how can I take the bad and the good equally within being? If I'm present and I'm still, it's much more possible than if I'm partial.
But is there good and bad?
That's where the question begins to arise because things are. I don't think I can be excused from assigning the value in some situations. I mean, I can't let some guy beat a child brutally and just say, well, that's okay, but that's ridiculous. I would never do that. But in an inner sense, there's a third force that I would boldly go so far as to say is love that intervenes here if we are in deep enough contact with ourselves that can rectify this question, repair the broken parts that make things good and bad. I do think that. I've had some moments of it,
I hear that.
Yeah, Anyway, am I gold? We've been on for so long, but
we started this before I got here.
Yeah, there you go. Hopefully the audience will be patient with us, and we'll see you next week.
Okay.
If God wills it so.
Yeah.